Hello, let's do the New York Times Medium Sudoku from May 26th, 2024. There's a link in the description if you'd like to try the puzzle yourself, and I'm going to get started right now. All right, so let's go over some terminology first. I call these cells. There's 81 cells in the grid. We have a 9 by 9 grid of cells. That's kind of the core of Sudoku there, where we're going to fill every cell with a digit between 1 and 9. See how some of them are already filled? We call those givens. By the end of the puzzle, every single cell will be filled with a digit, and there's only one way to do so for any given puzzle based on the initial givens. All right, we also have rows, columns, and boxes. The boxes are only the 3 by 3 areas that are bold outlined. That means that there are 9 rows, 9 columns, and 9 boxes, and each of them say that we are placing the digits 1 to 9 exactly once each. Since there are 9 cells, we're going to fill every cell once each with 1 to 9. And so that means that we can't omit a digit from 1 to 9, and we can't repeat a digit from 1 to 9. And that's what makes it have only one solution. That's what makes the puzzle interesting. All right, finally, we do have bands. That is a row of 3 boxes, and stacks. That is a column of 3 boxes. There's no special rule associated with bands and stacks, but we are going to utilize those structures a lot, so having a name for them is useful. All right, so actually let's think about bands to start with. A band is made up of 3 rows. It's also made up of 3 boxes. That means that we're going to have 3 of each digit total in the band. So what does it mean to have 2 9s already placed? We have 2 9s that are givens. Well, it means we've significantly restricted where the third 9 needs to go, because we know there will be a third 9. Well, this 9 is in row 3 and this 9 is in row 1. And so the final 9 can't repeat in those rows, so it's going to be in row 2. Additionally, this 9's in box 1, and this 9's in box 2, so the final 9 will be in box 3 for the band. And so it needs to be in both row 2 and box 3, which means it needs to be in the intersection of them. So it's going to end up in these 3 cells. I like to give that holistic approach to understanding where it ends up. But a more straightforward way to think about it is this box needs a 9, and this 9 here says don't repeat in this row, and this 9 here says don't repeat in this row. We get the same result, which is that 9 is in one of these 3 cells. Now, of course, this 6 is occupying one of the cells, and it's not 9, so 9 ends up in one of these 2 cells instead. We do want to scan down to see if there's any 9s in the columns. There are not. So 9 ends up in one of these 2 cells. Now, we're not going to just guess and place one. We don't guess. Because there's only one solution, there is a logical route to get to the solution. If we start guessing, if we guess wrong even once, we will not be able to complete the puzzle. We'll have to backtrack, and that's just not fun. So a logical solve is better because every time we place a digit, we are 100% sure that that digit belongs there. So in this case, 9 will be here or here, but we don't know which one. So this is where I introduce our notation system, at least partially. There are the Sudoku pad software I use, which is the link in the description and is free, has quarter mark and center mark modes. So I'm going to use those 2 different modes to mean 2 different things, and I'm always going to use it to mean that thing. So I've internalized it in my head because it's consistent. So the corner marks I'm going to use to say that in this box, the 9 has been reduced to these 2 cells. So it's a box-centric marking. Basically, of the 9 cells in the box, this is the list of cells that can be 9. We're only going to do it if it's down to 2 cells left in the box, or 3 cells if they're all in a row or all in a column. So even if the 6 weren't here, I could mark the 9s across like that, and that would be fine. All right, but we want to find all the repeated digits in the band. So my recommendation is to compare every box against every other box. So box 1 against box 2, box 1 against box 3, and box 2 against box 3. You can do that pretty efficiently by starting with a box that has the fewest givens. In this case, this box has 6 and 8. That's 2 givens. It's easy to remember 6, 8. Just look in this box for 6, 8 and look in this box for 6, 8. We don't find anything. So we've done 2 out of the 3 comparisons already. Now we just compare this box against this box. I recommend, again, choosing the one with the fewer givens. So we look at 7, 9, and we see that this box has both 7 and 9. So we take them one at a time. We have these 2 7s look in. These 3 cells are the only cells that can be the final 7. There's no 7s down here, so we're just going to corner mark all 3. And we already took care of the 9 in our example. All right, before moving on, there's 2 things I want you to look for. The first is if we have a filled box row. So for example, this has 2 out of the 3 digits filled in this box row. Box row is just a row within a box, right? And so that's not good enough. If this were filled with, say, a 2, just as an example, this would be a filled box row. But we don't know there's a 2 there, so we're not going to fill it. All right, and then finally, you want to look to see if there's any rows or boxes down to 4 or fewer open cells. So, for example, this box has 5 open cells. That's not 4 or fewer, but that's the closest we've got here. So we don't find any of that, so we are going to move on to the next band. So I'm going to start with this 4, 8. We do not have any 4s over here, but we do have a buddy 8 here. And we have these two 8s helping. So actually, we can place the 8 in this box. So we can just use the large digit there to place the 8. Eventually, every cell will have a digit placed with large digits. This is our first one for the puzzle. So other than the 8, we want to compare 1 and 3 against 8, 5, 9. No repeats. Are there any filled box rows? No. Are there any rows or boxes down to 4 or fewer? No. Okay, move on to the next band. You can, as you can see, sometimes you can do this very quickly, but sometimes you actually get a lot of info, and then that's also great. 2, 5, 8. We look for 2s, 5s, and 8s. I see the 2 and the 8 here. So we'll take them one at a time. We have these two 2s. These can't be 2 because they're filled with non-2. So we can place the 2 here. That's very nice. And now the 5 does not have a buddy, but the 8 does. So these two 8s look in. This 8 looks down. So there's an 8 one of these two cells. And then finally, we want to compare, the 2s are done, so we can ignore them, right? But we can compare 3, 6, and 7 against this box, and we do have the repeated 3. And that places the 3 here. Nice. So we got a lot of 2 place digit. That's pretty good. 6 and 7 don't have buddies. All right. Now, do we have any filled box rows? Yeah, we have 2 of them. Let's start with this one. So what you want to do here is basically, because this is filled, you'll be able to find virtual buddies. I don't know the best way to put this, but basically this box can be affected more by one single digit if it's affecting these rows. Right. So what we want to do is we want to look at these 2 rows that aren't in the box and aren't the row that is filled in that box. We don't care about empty cells, and we don't care about anything that's already placed in the box or already corner marked in the box. So 3, 2 are already placed, and 8 is already corner marked, but the 1 is new information. So this 1 is going to take 1 out of these 3 cells, and these 3 already aren't 1. If you want to think about it this way, it's as if there was a 1 over here, right? If this 1 had a buddy 1 somewhere up here, like say here, then the 1 would be limited to down here, just like in our initial scans. It's not known to be there, but I will argue that it always will be in just a moment. But it still affects the box in the same way. This 1 looks in, these aren't 1, so actually we can corner mark 1s down here. But when we do so, this does something called pointing. Now, technically, all of these that we've done are pointing, but this is the first one that's actually doing something interesting. Very interesting, actually. So let's think about it this way. In this box, the 1 has been reduced to either be here, here, or here. One of these 3 cells. Now, what do those 3 cells have in common? Well, they're all in the same row. They're all in row 9. So wherever the 1 ends up being, it will be in row 9. So if the 1 is over here in row 9, it's not going to be over here in row 9. So it doesn't matter where this 1 gets placed. It still is going to remove the 1s from the rest of the row. So importantly, these aren't 1. And this 1 looks in where it doesn't. We don't even need the 1 to look in, but it does look in. And these aren't 1. And then this 1 looks down, and this 5 isn't 1. We need a 1 in the box still. That's always a good thing to check before you place one. And so let's place the 1 here. Very nice. This is the only place for 1. We can't put it down here because it would ruin this box, right? This box wouldn't be able to place a 1, and that's no good. And so actually that buddy 1 that I said existed did exist. I said the virtual 1, it's always going to exist because we're going to need a 1 in this row, right? So if you want to think about it that way, just from the start, this row needed a 1. This is filled, so it's not in this box. This box already has it. So it ends up over here where our virtual buddy was. I like to do box-based scanning, though. I find that a little bit easier to handle. All right, well, we did get that 1. So this box row is filled, is taken care of. We now have this filled box row. So we want to look at these digits. These are empty. 2 and 3 already placed. 8 already placed, but 7 is new. So 7 looks in. These aren't 7. So we get a 7 down here. And don't forget to follow up with pointing. These 7s point. You're always going to get pointing in this situation. This 7 looks in. And we find this 7 here, one of these 2. And that was our initial buddy that would have taken 7 out of here had it not already been filled. Okay. Those are the filled box rows. So you can see how effective those are when you get them. And now we want to look for rows or boxes down to 4 or fewer. Focus on the ones with the fewest first. So this row is down to 3. That is the fewest. So what I want you to do is think about what are the 3 digits that aren't already placed in the row, because those 3 digits are what are going to end up in these final 3 cells. So we have 1, 2, 3. We need 4, 6, and 9. So I need to think about 4, 6, and 9 and see if there's anything in the boxes or the columns that match 4, 6, 9. And the only thing I'm seeing is this 9 here. So there's nothing super special about 9 not being allowed to be here. So we just want to think about 4, 6, 9. Now we want to remember that these cells were reduced to 4, 6, 9, but our corner marks are already used as a box-centric thing, and these aren't related to boxes. This is related to individual cells. So we're going to use center mark for that, 4, 6, 9. This can't be 9. And what the center mark means is this is the list of digits that are still possible to be placed in this cell. So when we look at the solution to this puzzle, this cell that I have highlighted here will only ever be a 4 or a 6 and nothing else. And that's what this center mark is reminding us of. It's a true fact about the cell that we're using center marks as a reminder. I guess reminder is the best word to indicate that. So it's not that the center marks cause it necessarily, it's that we are notating that we've discovered that. So because it's impossible to remember everything, at least for me. So I like notation for that reason. Notation is good to remember what you've already discovered out of the puzzle, not to randomly go around and like place it for no reason. Now, just like with corner marks, I'm going to limit what I center mark. I'm only going to center mark cells that are down to 3 or fewer digits. We call those candidates, three or fewer candidates. So we would call this a bi-value cell because it's down to 2. Bi is 2. And this would be a tri-value cell. It's down to tri is 3. It's down to 3 candidates. And so only bi-value and tri-value cells will get center marked. All right. Nothing immediately to do with that, but these could eventually form pairs or triples, naked pairs or naked triples, which we'll go over when we find them. All right, so that's that row. There's also, this box is down to 4 digits, the 4, 6, 7, and 9. And because it's down to 4, we should only center mark ones that see a 4, 6, 7, or 9. So this one saw a 7. This one sees a 6. So this is 4, 7, 9. But these can be any of 4, 6, 7, 9. So we're not super interested in that right now. This is down to 5. This row is down to 4. So we can mark that. And we know already that these are going to be marked because they aren't the 7. Notice we have the corner mark 7s here. There's also a 7 in here. So we know a 7 is going to be needed and we know they aren't here. But I still like to think about it first. We need the 4, 5, 7, and 9. So we're looking in the boxes and we're looking at the columns for 4, 5, 7, 9. So I see this 4, I see this 5, I see this 9, and this 9. And then there are no 4, and then this 7, right? So the 2 9s are most interesting to me because it means that these can't be 9. And if these aren't 9, that does leave over here for the 9. This is going to be really important because this does something called claiming. So this row, we did it by the row. This row needs a 9. We've discovered that these 2 cells can't be 9 because we happen to have 9s in the column. And so 9 was reduced to these 2 cells. Now it's very similar to pointing, but kind of backwards. The row needs a 9, and wherever the 9 goes in the row, it's in the same box. It's in box 7. And so if the 9 is, for this row, is going to be in box 7, that means it claims, that's why we use the word claiming, it claims the 9 from the rest of the box, saying you can't be 9 because the 9's up here. If the 9's up here, it's not also down here. So these cells are not 9. And so the thing to think about is whether that affects the rest of this row in terms of 9 placement. It doesn't seem to, because this can be 9. In fact, if we wanted to look ahead a little bit, we could see that when we vertically scan, the 9 ends up in one of these 2. So may as well mark that since I'm seeing it. Okay, so we do have the 9s here. And so I'm going to center mark the rest of this row. So we know this is 7, this is 9. There were 2 other digits. We have 1, 2, 3. We needed 4 and 5. And we see this 4 and this 5 and this 5. All right, so that's not enough to action on, but they are quite restrictive, which is nice. They may cause something later. Interesting. May or may not. I don't know. All right, so that's it for that band. You can see this band was much more effective than the previous 2. You never know which band's going to be effective until you try, so you want to scan them all. And we're also going to scan stacks, and we're going to do the same thing we did with bands, just instead of rows, say column. So we're going to start with the first stack here. Always start with the one with fewest given, so 4 and 8. So there are 4, 8 here, or a 4, 8 here. There is not. One thing I am noticing about the 4, though, is it does look into this box in a way that does cause there to be 2 places left for 4, so I am going to corner mark that. If you happen to notice something like that, there's no reason not to mark it. Anyway, let's look here now, 3, 5, 7, 9. I have the 3 and the 7. We'll take them one at a time. We have these 2 3s looking in. This 3 also looks in. So 3 is placed in this box. Very nice. Now, when we place that, we need to do what's called following up. Basically, we already scanned this band, but we just gained new information about it. We want to immediately trigger rescanning stuff related to what we placed. So first thing, is there a buddy for the 3? There is. This 3 also looks up. That lets us place this 3. Also, did it fill a box row? It did not. Did it cause a row or box to be 4 or fewer? It did not. So that's the only follow-up we need to do with that 3, but it is useful. We got another 3 out of it. If you wanted to, you could just say, well, we just placed a bunch of 3s. How many 3s are left? And actually, they are placeable. So I'm just going to do that now. So just kind of like, sometimes it's good to diverge if there's obvious stuff to do, right? I just placed this 3. I did notice there's a 3 down here. I noticed there's a 3 here. So we can place this 3 as well. Now that following up, that 3 has a buddy. This 3 looks up and we get this 3. And actually, we've placed all the 3s. Now, because we did that, we do want to make sure we follow up on this band if possible. But there's not any more follow-up to do. There's not a filled box row. We didn't reduce a row or box to 4 or fewer. But still, we placed some 3s. That was nice. All right, so now we backtrack all the way back here. We had the buddy 3. We also had the buddy 7. Those look in, and that places the 7 in this box. So now follow up. Is there a 7 over here? There's not. Did we fill a box row? We did not. Did we cause a row or a box to be 4 or fewer? We did. So we want to think about this row. It needs a 1, and I'm immediately, as soon as I say 1, I'm immediately looking for 1s that might affect these cells. So I see this one here, and I see this one here. So actually, there's only 1 cell that can be 1 in this row. So that's a hidden single 1 in the row. Now, when I use the word hidden single, what that refers to, and we've been doing hidden singles this whole time, but what it refers to is I'm looking at a row, column, or box. I'm looking at something that has 9 cells that can't repeat. We call that generically a house. Right? A house is just a row, column, or box, generically specified. So we're looking at a house, and we're looking at how there's a certain number of cells that are interesting about that house. In this case, a single cell is interesting in that house. So there was only a single cell in the row that could be 1, so it is 1. That's a hidden single. So hidden singles are the most powerful of the hidden techniques, of course, because you can place a digit. Now that 1 does remove this corner mark 1 here, but I think that's all it does for the stack. Remember to follow up on this stack because we were scanning it. We'll come back to the stack though. Let's continue on this row. So the remaining digits, we know we can pencil it because it's down to 3, but the remaining digits are 2, 4, and 6. So 2, 4, 6. Now I'm only seeing this 6 here. So we're just going to pencil 2, 4, 6, and then we'll clean up that 6. All right, cool. So we got this 1. There is no buddy for the 1. So now I think we found all the buddies, right? We actually managed to place the 1, 3, and 7 while we were at this, but we looked for the 4, 8, the 1, 3, 7 we looked for, and then also we had the 3, 5, 7, 9. Yeah. So this box has been reduced to 4 digits though. So let's take a look at that. Yeah, I think that's a good one to start with. So we need 2, 5, 6, 9. So we're looking for 2s, 5, 6s, and 9. I see that these two, they see a 6 and a 9. And that's going to be huge. So let's do them one at a time first, so I can show you how you can kind of recognize this if it happens more naturally. But in general, because these can't be 6, 9, the 6, 9 is going to end up over here, and that's called a hidden pair. So if we start with the 6 in this box is limited to these 2 cells. Now that is going to point. That points up along with this 6. And that we should have used this filled box column for this, but looking at what digits are left in the box does the same thing at this point. So the 6s do point up, and so the virtual buddy for the 6 is in one of these 2, because we have this 6 here as well. The 9 does the same thing. It looks down here, it puts a 9 in one of these 2. That's going to point down, removing 9 from these cells. So if this cell can't be 9, well, now there's only 1 digit it can be, which is the 4. We're also removing a corner mark 9. Which is going to place a 9 here. But I have to do one thing at a time, and when I explain, I have to explain one thing at a time. So I am seeing both, though. I'm deciding to explain this first. So remember, the center marks are the entire exhaustive list of candidates for the cell, the digits that could end up in the solution. And what these center marks are informing us of right now, they're not causing it, what they're informing us is that there is only one digit that can go in this cell, which is the 4. And so that's called a naked single, because nakedly we look at our center marks and just we can see that it is only 4. It's different than the hidden, right? The hidden is we have to inspect every cell in the box and go, only one of them can be that digit. That's a hidden single. The naked single is we look at the individual cell on its own and we see that it can only be 4, so it must be 4. They are not the same thing. Hidden singles and naked singles are not the same thing, and that's why they have different names. Just because something's a hidden single in a box doesn't mean it's a naked single in the cell. Just because it's a naked single in the cell does not mean it's a hidden single in the row, column, or box. So placing that 4 is huge, but remember I also removed a corner mark 9. Well, that's informing us that we have a hidden single 9 in the box, because within this box, this is now the only cell that has a 9 corner mark in it, meaning it's the only cell that can be 9. So we can also place the 9 here. All right, there's a lot to follow up on, but let's go back to this 4. It did remove this 4 corner mark, which places this 4, which we placed that through seeing this 4 looking in, so that's nice. But if we hadn't, we would have seen the buddy 4 and placed it at that point. This 4 also removes 4 from these cells. And I'm going to stop explaining this so carefully for the rest of the solve, because otherwise the solve will take 2 hours. Just explaining a naked single every single time it comes up, and you're going to get bored, and I'm going to get bored. Anyway, so this is a naked single 7, and that makes this a naked single 5. Now, we haven't done the stack yet, so we don't need to follow up on that, but we do want to follow up on the band. And we can see that this is a triple, so this is going to be 1, 8, and something. 1, 5, 8. And this cannot be 1 or 5, so this is a naked single 8. And then we can clean 8 out of these cells, and we can clean 1 out. And so this 1, 5 is a naked pair, and it's going to remove 1, 5 from this the row. But they already can't be 1, 5, so I'll explain naked pairs when they're actually useful. This cell is down to 4, 6, 9 for the box, so we can just fill that. I don't think these were affected at all. These are still 4, 6, 7, 9 as far as I can tell, so we're not going to mark those. So this band is pretty well, it's in good state right now. But we placed this 4 and this 9. We want to check vertically. We got the 4, we got the 9. This 4, does it affect things in this band? It doesn't seem to right now. Okay. All right, so back to here. After all that, we took care of the pointing, right? But after all that, what we have discovered here is that this is a hidden 6-9 pair. Now, remember, hidden deals with a house, right? In this case, it's dealing with the box. It's a hidden 6-9 pair in the box. And what that means is, in this box, pair meaning 2, right? So in this box, there are 2 cells remaining that can have the 6 or the 9 in them. This can't be 6 or 9. It can't be either of them. This can't be 6 or 9. It can't be either of them. That's what our quarter marks are telling us. They're exactly overlapping in and only in 2 cells. 2 digits, corner marked in exactly 2 cells. And so that means that these cells must end up 6 and 9 in some order. So we can use center marks for that. What the hiddens do is they remove the possibility of any other candidates from being in there, except for the single pair or triple that we're talking about. So in this case, it's a hidden pair. So the 6 and the 9 are the only digits that can go in these cells, because we need to fit both the 6 and the 9 into this box. And the only way to do that is to use these cells for the 6 and the 9. So we can remove the corner marks because it's redundant with our 6-9 pair. And so now in this column, we also know where the 6 and 9 go, because this box needs them to be here. So the pointing did the same thing in this case, but the result is that this cell can't be 6 or 9. So this cell basically is whatever the digit is missing from the rest of the column. So we do have a hidden single in this column as well. I'm looking to see what it is. It's a 2. There's a hidden single 2 in this column as well. But you could also say that this used to be able to be 2, 6, 9, although it couldn't have been. But let's pretend it could have been 2, 6, 9. Well, the 6, 9 takes 6, 9 out of it, and now it's also a naked single 2. So either way. So now the rest of this box, we know the 6, 9 are over here. So these are going to be the other 2 digits, which is going to be the 2 and the 5, which is not resolved. But it does mean for this column, where does 1 go? Or alternatively, we have this 2, 5 pair removing 2 and 5 from here. So the 1 ends up here, and that makes the 5 end up here as a naked single. And now this is just a triple remaining. We need the 1, 6, and 8. And we can just mark that up. We don't need the 6's cornered anymore, because we just have this triple left. So this stack did very, very well as well. All right, I placed this 2. We want to make sure we follow up on the band. I also placed the 1, 5. It doesn't affect the band. It was already a pair. The band didn't care how they're resolved. Once you get a feel for that, you know that whether you need to follow up or not. Feel free to look and go, oh, it doesn't do anything. But All right, so now we're going to move on to this stack here. Remember, we haven't even finished all our stacks yet, right? So we're going to start with 3. Well, 3s are done, right? We got all our 3s done. So we just worry about 7 and 9. So we do have 2 7s looking into here. So 7 ends up in one of these 2 cells. And then we have the 9, and then we already know where all our 9s are. So then besides the 3 and the 9, we have 5 and 8. So we do have 2 8s looking up. This 8 looks in, putting an 8 up here. And then the 5s do look up, and that places the 5 here. Now placing that 5, we have a buddy for it. They look in here. That places a 5 here. Now what we've done is we have actually filled up this box row. We've also reduced this row to 3. So let's do the filled box row first, though. Let's look over here. We don't care about empty cells. We don't care about 3, 5, 6, 8. So 3, 5 is gone, but we do have the 4, 9, and 7. 7 and 9 are already corner marked. The 4 is not. So the 4 looks in, and that leaves just these 2 cells for 4. Now, before I do anything else, I'm going to recognize that this is a hidden pair, just like we have the 6, 9 over here. 4 and 9 are reduced to exactly 2 cells in the box, so they must be there. So that's a hidden 4, 9 pair. And that is going to mean that that's the 4, 9 for the row, so the rest of this row has 3 digits left. What are they? They are the 1, 2, and 8. I'm already seeing this cell can't be 2 or 8, so it's a naked single 1. That makes this an 8, and that makes this a 2. That's now removed an 8 corner mark from this box, so this is the only place for 8, hidden single 8 in the box. All right, this is now a pair. We have 1, 2, 3. We need, I guess for the box, it's 4 and 6. I'm looking for 4s or 6s down here. I don't see them, but it does mean this is the 1 for the row, and this is the 6. And we've reduced this to a triple, so we need the 1, and we see these 2 1s looking in. So the 1 ends up here, and then we need 2 and 7. Not resolved, but you can see this band is basically done as well. All right, we just got a bunch of stuff. We were scanning this stack. There's a lot more to scan with it now. So we do have 2 2s looking down. So we want a 2 and one of these 2. We have 2 1s looking in. This one also looks in. It places the 1 and also places the 7. We know this is down to 4, 6 just for the column. At this point, we have so few cells left in the stack, it's sometimes easier just to center mark it. This is down to 4, 6 for the column. This is also 4, 6. Kind of interesting. And then this is down to 2, 4, 6, 9. I don't think it really sees anything of that. So, it sees the 9. So it's down to 4. Yeah, the box is down to 2, 4, 6. I could have done that. All right, so this stack is pretty well done as well. There's not much more to find with it. So we're going to do this stack next. It feels like the puzzle's finishing up, so we can speed up a bit, right? But let's look for the 1, 3, 8. So 3s are done, 1s are done, 8s are done. So besides 1, 3, 8, we have 2, 5. So we do have the 2 5s looking in. That places the 5 here. That gives us the 2 and the 5 in this box. This 2 being removed gives us the 2 in the box. That gives us the 4 and 6 for the row. This can't be 6 anymore. In fact, the 6 looks down along with this 6, putting the 6 here. This can't be 6 anymore. This can't be 4. In fact, this is down to 4, 7, 9. Okay, we do have a 4, 9 pair, though, in the column, which means this can't be 4 or 9. So this, in fact, another way to think about this is that there's a hidden 2 in the column. But either way, this can't be 4, 9. That makes this 7, which then makes this 2. So you get the same result either way. Whichever you see first, you can use. Nice to validate with the other ways, though. Sometimes it's helpful to just confirm. So we get all of this resolved. Oops, all of this resolved. All of our 4, 6s, our 6, 9s, or 9, 4. The whole puzzle's resolved. We need 2, 7, and 9. So this is the 7, and then we need 2 and 9. That's 9. That's 2. All right. Cool. So we did manage to finish the puzzle today, just from our initial scan on bands and stacks. Doesn't always happen, but it happens a good percentage of the time with the mediums. There are other things to look for in like a phase 2, phase 3. Sometimes in the mediums I get to go over them, sometimes I don't, but in this puzzle I didn't have to. So there's always more to look for, but you want to look for the easiest stuff first, because sometimes the easiest stuff just finishes the puzzle. And it'll seed the puzzle with as much information as you can get so that the next passes are able to utilize that information and build on it. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this. And if you did, then why not leave a like, subscribe, and a kind comment below.